Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to
BreakRoom,
your favorite rapper's favorite podcast.
See, this is why I like your show. You guys charismatic. You know the right things to say.
Welcome to the Break Room, the podcast that comes to you live every Saturday night from Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We're here with the same usual suspects as every Saturday night. However, we have a special guest for you.
That's right.
Mr. Terry Rich. How you doing tonight, Terry?
I'm doing great. How are you all doing?
Hey, we're doing fantastic now that we got you on.
Hey, well, what's this guy from the Midwest on TV for, on this podcast for? That's what I want to find out. This is shit. I also maybe can give you the winning lotto numbers about halfway through this podcast. I know you guys, you'll always need a tease to keep people tuned in. So let's see if I can give a winning number halfway through this, okay?
Well, we wouldn't want to cost anybody else 25 years.
Yeah, no kidding, including me.
Exactly.
We've been
That would be
just
something.
came out, but
Lead investigator of the biggest lotto scandal of all time, now tied to his own. Tonight at 10. Well, that's right.
If you tell us any numbers, I'm not writing anything down. I'm just going to try to remember it.
We are here tonight talking about the Hot Lotto scandal, the biggest lottery fraud in U.S. history, orchestrated by none other than Eddie Tipton. And guess who put him behind bars?
Scales.
My man Terry Rich right here.
This guy right here.
Well, I have to say it was a big team. I'll tell you all about the team and answer any questions that you'd like. But yeah, we had the opportunity to nail the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history, and it was crazy because we did it with a ticket, 2 hot dogs, and Bigfoot.
That's
Bigfoot.
just
Bigfoot.
That's all.
And 2 hot. Don't forget 2 hot dogs. You can't forget that.
Yeah.
Which
Did you have
is
relish
the
on 'em?
name,
Mustard? It works.
which is the title of the episode in the archives for Talking Junk, where I sat down with Terry and we kicked the shit for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and he told me all about it, which is why we are talking about the case tonight. But before we do that, shame on you if you haven't listened to the interview I did with Terry Rich a few weeks ago. But why don't we just get into it? And Terry, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
That, by the way. So just saying, if you haven't been watching Talking Junk, Santa's taking notes. So
Get your mental notepad out.
Also, speaking of which, we got Merc. It's Christmas. Get some
Oh,
merch.
wow.
Represent.
I didn't get one of those yet. Yeah.
Oh, we'll
we
definitely
have-
be sending you one.
We have many. We have many. Many for you. many
Email
for
me
Tommy.
where to send it.
Choose your topic. We're the support. We got your episode right on your chest.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Terry, for the people who shame on them didn't see the first episode.
Okay, pretty easy. I'm just a little farm boy from a town called Cooper, Iowa, and went to school to become a math teacher. Went to college to go be a math teacher, and somebody said you can go over here and make a living doing TV and radio. So I started in cable television rather than broadcast when cable wasn't cool, and got to work with people like Ted Turner and help when they started MTV and CNN and all those kind of deals. And I got lucky when I was 29 years old in that I decided to do a promotion for that little farm town of Cooper, Iowa, 50 people, and landed on the Johnny Carson show, which really propelled my career and allowed me to do a lot of different things, including I enjoyed doing HBO free previews. You ever come home one night and all of a sudden HBO's free and say, "Hey, Marge, HBO's free." Well, we produce those, and then we'd get on and sell you HBO afterwards. Well,
Okay, real quick, Terry. Thank you for that, because growing up, it was like HBO.
you probably were watching Cinemax, is what you were watching. We were playing HBO.
Shame on you, Talon. You look like a Cinemax After Dark kind of guy.
I know nothing about that. Okay. Anyway.
I have no knowledge on that. I do know, though, growing up that when HBO came, because sometimes it'd be like 1 or 2 channels. Sometimes it was like a full thing. So depending on how many you got, it was like, oh, so we don't even have to worry about going to the movies. The movies came to us. We get to see what we missed. We get to see some of the exclusive stuff. I love that. So thank you.
You
for
stay
that.
home one Saturday afternoon, you see all the good movies, all the new ones.
Yeah. Oh,
That was the idea.
after that.
And then we'd come on in between. But go back to the Carson show. And I was on the Carson show, they were talking about uplinking the entire Johnny Carson show from Cooper, Iowa. And I got the idea, why can't we use a satellite to do these HBO free previews nationwide? And so I came back and talked to my buddies at HBO, and they said, sure, we can send you out a satellite uplink. So we did the very first one from Iowa and sold about $15 million worth of HBO that weekend. So that helped my career a little bit. Well, lo and behold, at 40, I lost my job in that a big company came in, swooped in, and bought our company. You hear about this all the time, corporate takeovers. But it was a good deal because I was being paid in stock options, not much in salary. And I thought, at 40, that's a pretty good deal. So what do you do at that point? And so I decided to start my own company and do these free previews and started doing them for pay-per-view events like the Three Bow Holyfields and all of those. We produced those shows. And then I was on the road, great money, great travel. But at 50, you know what happens? You know what happens, Meg? Yeah, midlife crisis. So I decided I'd try something new, and I got a call and said, hey, they're going to shut the zoo down. You want to run the zoo? Well, I grew up on the farm. What's the difference between growing tigers as it is growing cattle? So, okay, I'll run a zoo.
Interesting call to get.
It was fun. Now you hear about running zoos, and I own a zoo. There was a movie, I guess, but long story short, we turned it around, and now it's a great. It's got a lot of money to last throughout pandemics and everything else, and it's doing really well. So then I got a call from the governor, said, "Hey, would you be interested in running the lottery? The gentleman is retiring," and I thought, that sounds like fun. Give away somebody else's money? Why not? So we ran the lottery, and that's how we got to the biggest lottery fraud in U.S. history. So I'm a marketer and a promoter, as you may be able to tell. In fact, a little later, if you want, we can talk about Soccer Slam, which should see a documentary next year. Is a full contact indoor soccer, kind of like WWE, only it's soccer and it's played on an ice rink, and they fight, they do all sorts of stuff. So anyway, let's not talk about that. We can talk about the lottery fraud, because halfway through this great promotional gig I got to be the head of the lottery and be on the Powerball board and be the North American Lottery president, we had someone come in and claim a prize for $16.5 million, and it just didn't feel right. And that's how the saga began.
And the saga will continue.
A very interesting saga.
Is this where we break for commercial? Do I get to say void were prohibited? Member FDIC.
We'll be back after this.
Brought to you by Las Vegas.
This is where we read from The Man Who Cracked the Lottery, presented by the New York Times Magazine.
And Jasmine's awkwardly crazy hat. Why did you buy that? I've never seen a Christmas hat like that.
Wouldn't you like to know?
It's bendable. It's free posable.
It goes everywhere.
Did you get that from Whoville?
Whoville Plus?
She wishes she went to Whoville.
I do.
She wants to meet the Grinch so bad.
I do. I love him.
She want to meet the Grinch. Open the closet. He's right there.
What?
You know what?
You should put a mic in the top and just make an adjustable mic, like boom.
Right, that would be cool. We got to get somebody to design that for us. Put a patent on it.
Right, that would sell. Not
Anywho.
amazingly, but it would sell.
You can really talk junk from the top of your head. What you think is what you say. What you say is what you thought anyway. So hey,
You can just put talking junk on the stock. Hey, new item. Look, it's coming to you guys right here on the screen. This isn't how we do it. But let's get back to the lotto. Let's talk about
that was a great commercial. I love that commercial. Jasmine, what are you drinking? Can we give them a plug too?
Yeah, definitely. We are drinking Kettle One Botanicals.
Oh man,
peach and orange blossom mixed with a little bit of the Malibu.
Okay.
And some secret sauce here. A couple of juices, some grenadine, a little bit of peach schnapps.
He mixes a lot of things in there.
Very nice. That sounds like a nice mix.
Over, you leave the secret sauce out of my drink.
The secret sauce is what puts the oomph in it. It's what makes you think you're just drinking juice.
It does, but I don't like brand Secret Sauce by Jason the Pipe or whatever.
Can you imagine if somebody just tuned in and said, wait a minute, what are 3 guys and some old white guy from Iowa? What is going on here?
Right? Are they talking about them? Like, what's going on? Like, what's the story?
Well, now we talk
Somebody's
about
drinking or
drinks
smoking
here.
something. I don't know. Well, anyway, go ahead.
All the time, Terry. On this show, all the time. Well, let's get back to it. Like I said, we're reading the first article we're going to read is called "The Man Who Cracked the Lottery." It's from the New York Times Magazine, and it was written by Reed Forgrave. And it says, when the Iowa Attorney General's office began investigating an unclaimed lottery ticket worth millions, an incredible string of unlikely winners came to light, and a trial that pointed to an inside job.
Trail.
Excuse me. The file landed on Rob Sand's desk with something less than a thud. Despite holding the contents of an investigation still open for more than 2 years, the file was barely half an inch thick. Happy birthday, his boss said. It was Rob Sand's birthday. His boss, an Iowa Deputy Attorney General named Thomas H. Miller, was retiring July 2014 after nearly 3 decades of prosecuting everything from murder to fraud. He hired Sand about 4 years earlier and made him the youngest prosecutor in a 9-attorney team that handled challenging cases all over the state. Now Miller was offloading cases to colleagues. This one having to do with a suspicious lottery ticket worth $16.5 million was full of dead ends. Investigators didn't know if a crime had been committed, but the most tantalizing pieces of evidence were on a DVD. 2 grainy surveillance clips from a gas station. Sand slid the disc into his laptop and pressed play. Sand slid, excuse me. A man walked in. Now we've seen it. You can see this footage. This footage is everywhere, and it just shows who was presumably Eddie Tipton going into a gas station. And this is where Terry. This is where he bought the 2 hot dogs when he bought the lottery ticket.
That's right. So a guy walks into a convenience store. He buys lottery tickets. He uses a play slip, which he determined the numbers he wanted to play. And then he bought 2 hot dogs and then walked out. But his day was kind of unlucky that day because he didn't realize, 1, he bought it in a state that requires that you tell who bought the ticket. 2, that people who work for the lottery, even as vendors, can't play the lottery. And 3, that convenience store had both video and audio being recorded. Now, a little secret here. We're going to tell a little bit of cop secret here that I learned because I'm not a cop. I'm just the head of the lottery working with the Rob Sands and the investigators, the DCI. When you walk into any convenience store today, you're probably on camera, right? And if you touch a ticket to a lottery machine, it's being recorded at the same time and can be synced with the camera to see who's holding that ticket. So that's how we got started with the story. He crawls into a car, a silver car of some sort that you could kind of see in the background with the cameras, and he heads for Texas and decides to get down there. Now, why Texas? Well, he had a friend down there, and he gave the ticket to the friend, and he said, "Hey, I've been watching the numbers pretty well, and I'd like to have you check this. You can have this ticket." 2 weeks later, guess what? Ticket wins $16.5 million.
His friend had his own agenda.
His friend had kind of an agenda. His friend thought this is kind of screwy. Ding, ding, ding. So he hands it to his lawyer and says, "Can you help me cash this?" His lawyer calls and says, "I got a friend in New York that could cash it." Contacts his friend in New York called Crawford Shaw and gives it to him. And he says, "Well, I've got a friend in Canada that might be better for this," and hands it off to a gentleman named Philip Johnston. Philip Johnston was a retired lawyer in Quebec City, Canada. And for 11 months, they sat on it. Now, in most states, if you buy a lottery ticket, you have up to 12 months to cash that ticket in. Right. So by that time, we'd been barking, "Hey, check in your visor, check under your seat, check wherever you put your lottery ticket, because somebody has $16.5 million.
And if nobody claims the money, it goes back into the pot.
That's right. If it's unclaimed, it just goes back to the states and isn't given away.
Real
about-
quick, Jerry, was that
Go ahead.
a common thing? Like, was that something that happened often, that just there was jackpots that just went unclaimed and would make the pot grow? Is that usually how that happens? It's just unclaimed tickets, or?
Yeah, very rarely. Usually most people wait a couple of weeks because they talk to their lawyer or their tax accountant so they can kind of figure out what's the best way to take it and pay the least amount of taxes. But this went on, and the longer it goes, the more suspicious it becomes. 6 months in, we started to get people coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, that was my ticket. I lost my ticket. I won, so give me the money. Or, hey, I think the clerk stole the ticket from me.
Kind of money.
Yeah, everybody would want it.
Yeah.
We had one person said, I think my husband's in the mafia. He drives a truck. I haven't seen him, and he drives to that gas station all the time. He left me, and if he comes in, I get half of it. So people were starting to start kind of, that's my ticket.
That was good. That was good.
Early alimony.
Don't get no ideas.
That's a good hustle. I can't knock
That's
it.
a good idea.
Everybody had
Terry.
an
Thanks a lot.
idea.
My wife's sitting next to me. You're gonna give her that story.
And then at 11 months, the lawyer from Canada calls us and says, hey, I won the lottery, and they gave us enough numbers. See, if you called in, a lady would call in and say, that's my ticket. We knew by the video and audio on the tape, it was a man.
Watch your language. Sorry, that
So
was my
immediately you could just be like, no, ma'am, it's not you.
Yeah, and we could say it's not you. Well, at 11 months, we get a call from a guy who could give us a serial number and numbers on the ticket, so we know he at least had it or he made a duplicate of it. So we knew this was serious, but here's where he messed up. He said, I bought the ticket. I'm going to send you the ticket. Will you send me to Canada $16.5 million? Yeah, right, buddy.
Converted.
Yeah, we're really gonna send that to another country right now.
Easier said
No
than
way.
done.
So make a long story short, he talked to some of our employees. They asked him questions and immediately realized he was lying, that he couldn't be the one buying it because the guy buying it was 300 to 400 pounds and wore a black hoodie. And this guy said he was wearing tweed pants and he was 70 years old and could hardly get around. So when he lied, we called the Department of Criminal Investigation and we called the Attorney General's office. And then he called back and said, hey, I confess, I told a fib. So we knew he had committed a felony. We're going to arrest him. Well, he didn't show up. He sent the ticket back to the guy in New York who'd sent it to him. And the guy in New York hired 2 lawyers in Des Moines. And an hour and a half before the ticket was to expire, 2 lawyers showed up with the ticket. Ding, ding, ding. Something's screwed here. No doubt about it. So what we did was we asked some questions and we put them in front of the camera, and I held the ticket up, and I learned, here's another valuable lesson. If you're involved in a crime and you've got all the press around, international press, don't hold the evidence up in your hand. I held the ticket up and said, we have the winner. And I hear all these cameras go, because these zoom lenses came in, and now everybody has the serial number. They have all the vital information that we use to verify, because I just held it up. I also have my fingerprints on the dumb ticket at that point. So at that point, we knew we had the fraud, and we said we weren't going to pay it. We went 3 or 4 weeks back and forth with the guy in New York, and we found out that it was a Belizean trust they were trying to get the money for. He was the executor, and the president was Philip Johnston, the guy in Canada who had called us in November. So we knew they were connected, but we didn't know how it worked. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, we get a fax that said, we withdraw our claim. What? They gave up $16.5 million. They said, we don't want our client to get all this publicity. They don't want the publicity, so we're giving it up.
But now it took 2 years for any of this to happen, right? Before anybody knew any of this?
Well, this was 1 year after the ticket was bought. And what happened then was we handed it off to Thomas H. Miller, to the Attorney General's office and the DCI, who said, we're going to start an investigation. And that from there took 2 more years to the time Thomas Miller was to retire, and handed the ticket to Rob Sand, the new Attorney General. And that's where you ended the story that you were talking about.
Okay. Now where it takes from here, it says 2 years into the case. That was virtually all the investigators had. Sand watched the video again and again, trying to pick up every little detail and the SUV's make, the man's distinct appearance, and most likely in his 40s and 100 pounds overweight, maybe more. Now, if you ever seen a picture of Eddie Tipton, you know it's a little more.
A lot more. Sorry.
He doesn't eat hot dogs, according to him and some other people.
Right. You would think that he'd know that hot dogs take an hour off your life for each hot dog you eat.
Not even that. Nobody buys hot dogs in the gas
Speaking of, I
station
had, like,
or
three of
in
them
the
shits
convenience store. Like, oh, hey, let's go buy a hot dog. That's probably why.
Yeah, let me go buy a hot dog that's been sitting
He
there
was
for
the
last
only
5
person
hours.
who bought hot dogs. That's why they were like, it's definitely him. It's this guy right
He was
here.
the Homer Simpson. Homer would always go in the Quickie Mart, and it didn't matter how long the hot dog was there. If he wanted a hot dog, he was taking it. And if it looked disgusting, he was still taking it. I think that's an episode, but
it is an
episode. That's a shorter commercial from this story. Jay, may you continue?
Yes.
So now Rob Sand has the case. So you're at that point, and Rob takes the case, and he says to us, "We only have 3 months left. We're now 4 or 5 years into the time from the time he bought the ticket. Eddie Tipton is still working somewhere, and Rob says we're going to release the video. That's all we have left." And we didn't want to release the video publicly, because if we did, then everybody who said they had won it would come in a black hoodie, because you couldn't see his face. But remember, that's where this guy screwed up, in that he bought the ticket in there were only 4 stores in Iowa out of 2,400 that recorded both audio and video. And when they released the tape, people didn't recognize the visual. They recognized his voice. And they said, wait a minute.
That's crazy.
That's Eddie Tipton. And so we heard that, and we said, oh my gosh, that's a guy who works for the multi-state lottery. And they're the ones that do the drawings. And he's the one that programmed the computer that drew it for that particular game. And
now,
so
it's even a question as to why he ended up working for the multi-state lottery in the first place, because he was a felon.
He had been accused of a felony for some frauds that he had done in the late 1990s. That's correct. He was he ultimately
that on the
back out
interview
and hired. The kicker was, though, that when we kind of knew the name of the person in Houston, Texas that he gave to, but we hadn't connected it to who bought the ticket. That was for 3 years, that's what perplexed us. But as soon as we got the name of the person in Texas and Eddie Tipton, the investigators started looking at, what do you look at? Number one thing, this is the thing you want to hear if you hear nothing else during this interview. The first thing that cops go to if something is illegal, social media and your cell phone. And that, boom, they immediately connected, and we found that Eddie worked for Robert Rhodes, the guy who we knew had the ticket, for 4 years prior to the time that he came to work for the multi-state lottery where he was working. And so immediately
wasn't it the other way around? Didn't he work for Tipton, who owned a company or partners?
No, Tipton worked Tipton worked for Robert Rhodes, who was a CEO, and Tipton was a CIO, COO. Okay. And that's where they'd worked together. Now, I don't think they were colluding when they went in, but Tipton came up and he did something. So Rob Sand, miraculous, great young attorney general, went after him and charged him one day before the statute of limitations went up, or a couple days before the statute of limitations were up, with fraud, and also Robert Rhodes. Charged them both. And
how long did it take for you guys to find out that Eddie did this before?
This was we're now 4.5 years in from the time Eddie bought the ticket. Eddie then is charged. Robert Rhodes is charged. And Eddie goes to trial in July of that year. Now remember, we're still just talking a little dinky state, Iowa. One incident. We didn't have a smoking gun. We couldn't figure out the computer that had the drawings on it had been wiped clean. He had already wiped those clean, so we didn't have any evidence. But Rob Sand got him convicted of 2 counts of fraud just on the deal that he programmed the computer and his buddy won it, and the jury put it together and said, you're guilty, you're guilty. But this is where it really gets interesting, because Eddie let his brother come up and testify for him. His brother was in Houston, Texas, was a cop and a justice of the peace. And lo and behold, we find out later his brother was part of that. But his brother gets on the stand and he says to the entire world, look, the person in that video can't be my brother. My brother don't eat hot dogs, and that guy bought a hot dog.
Are you kidding?
And
me?
an Associated Press reporter heard that and said, looked over at Eddie and thought, this guy's 300-400 pounds. He doesn't eat hot dogs. Put it in an article and put it out on the wires. It got out on the wires. It went back to this brother's hometown in Latonia, Texas.
Well,
and when it got in the paper there, he said, I don't eat hot dogs. This is, the headlines in it all. And a FBI agent said, wait a minute, Tommy Tipton, his brother, who said this thing about him not eating hot dogs, we investigated him for money laundering 10 years ago. So he immediately called up and said, you should check Rob Sand. You should check with the lottery, check with him too, and check your brother and all that. So what do? They look at his cell phone records, they look at his social media, and lo and behold, we took all of the contacts that they had and all of those, and the lottery then compared those to all the winners of $600 and more across the United States, and immediately found 5 jackpots that were won across the state, starting in Colorado. Your question, I think, Jason, was what year did it start? About 2005, a year after he became an employee for this vendor organization called Multi-State Lottery. He did the first jackpot out there, and he got the numbers, and I'll give you the secret sauce there in just a second. So at that point, then we got to charge all 3 of them and got all 3 to commit and say yes. That's how it got started. So that's how hot dogs. That's how hot dogs and the ticket got to help solve the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history.
Now that little snippet that you just said there about Tommy Tipton and him laundering money and being investigated by the FBI, that was one of the tickets that his brother gave him, and he had won. And the reason why he got stopped was because he was trying to get used bills from somebody who reported him. And when they went to investigate him, he told them that he was trying to cover it up from his wife, because his wife was a devout Christian, and he didn't want her to know that he was gambling. It's a sin.
That was my understanding, that Tommy, when we got the secret sauce. So let's go back to, we knew that they were all involved, and when we saw these jackpots, we realized there were 3 dates that we could identify when people were winning jackpots. And so we gave that to a Wisconsin FBI and CIA agent who were helping the Wisconsin Bureau look at a jackpot up there. And they found the code. And the code basically said, if it is one of those 3 dates after 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday or Saturday, and on one of Eddie's program computers, which there were 35 to 50 of them out there, then Eddie could take the numbers down from millions to about 200 combinations. So he would write down all 200 combinations. But that only happened 1 day out of any given year. So Eddie, that very first one, wrote them down on a piece of yellow paper, went down, gave them to his brother, and said, hey, I've been trying to see if I could win. Why don't you try these numbers? His brother gave them to his lawyer and said, hey, do you think I should play? And the lawyer said, what do you think about this? And he gave it the next day. He gave him back, said, yeah, I think you're okay. So his brother then got a friend who was a Bigfoot hunter to go cash it in Colorado. That's how Bigfoot got involved.
Okay.
So the Bigfoot hunter goes and cashes them and gets all $100 bills, keeps 10% of it, and then gives it to Tommy. Tommy's looking down, and they're all in sequential order. He says, I got to do something here. I got to launder a little. So he goes to the fireworks dealer in town and exchanges it to get different numbers, sequential numbers. Lo and behold, the fireworks dealer gets antsy and contacts the FBI, and that's how that started. So the FBI called him, and he was in a tree stand and fell out of the tree stand and was in the hospital. I think they said under a morphine drip. And they asked him, how did you do? He says, well, I was hunting Bigfoot and I fell out of the tree stand. And they said, well, where'd you get this money? And he said, I won it in the lottery in Colorado. And so the FBI agent called Rob Sand, and it just kept snowballing and snowballing till till we found out that Tommy was getting all of his Bigfoot hunters to cash in the lottery tickets ultimately to put it all together.
This whole time
That's
I
how
thought they
they're
were
getting
feeding
those television
Bigfoot the hot dogs.
So you get a team of people to cash in on
We watch a
smaller
lot of Disney
jackpots.
movies.
So eventually, that whole bigger jackpot you would have won in one shot has been broken up into a couple of games played.
They could do once a year, and I learned something in all of this is that if you have a church, a school, you hear a lot about it in schools or county organizations or companies where somebody writes the checks and also writes the purchase order. If you've got that, you're right for fraud. You need to have separation of duties. So one person, Eddie had the keys of the kingdom, is how he was able to do it. He wrote the programming, he installed the programming, and he maintained the programming. So
To say he was the brains of the operation is an understatement.
yeah, they needed somebody in that organization to break it apart.
Hey, Sunshine.
What's up,
Better
Sunshine?
late than never. Okay,
You're right on time for the
Yeah.
moonshine cherries.
we're here.
Oh my God!
That matters.
Sorry, it's been a while. I had to bring him
Talk
back.
about secret sauce.
Yeah, this is my
Here's the
secret cherry
disclaimer
sauce.
for anybody under 21 watching the series. We do not condone drunk driving at all. We are drunk talking, which we do not condone either. So please be sure if you are only of age to drink responsibly and in a very safe and indoor setting.
Or
And
grandpa will
don't-
come out and talk to you.
Very well said. Very well
Yes, and also spend money on your alcohol. If you're gonna put alcohol in your body, make it be of quality. Value yourself.
Yeah, like I went to the liquor store yesterday and somebody bought BJ's brand vodka. Now that's not
What is that? That sounds disgusting.
said.
right. It's
know
like
that was
Wesley
it's vodka.
Farms vodka. I was like, what is he doing?
I think that's
BJ's
triple
brand.
distilled
BJ's brand.
Something else,
Somebody made that out of
BJ?
their toilet like
That's
hooch.
gross.
right?
That's
I've never been on a show that has had this good of breaks for commercials of any I've ever been on. That's all I
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully, sponsors hear you say that and give us the actual
Right.
product to sell.
That's right.
You're talking about the booze to sell or the
Hey, whatever it
Whatever,
is.
really.
If it's
whatever? We'll take anything for you.
if it's juice, I don't need the product for free. I'll go buy the product. I'll go support
Yeah.
it. It's those
Yeah.
sponsored checks that I want.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you help us, we'll help you, and we rub it back.
Then you can have your last name as Rich.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah, Jason Rich, Jasmine Rich, Wolf Rich, Migs Rich, brought to you by your friendly neighborhood Yankee fan.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
That's right. And also, Mike Rich and Dre Rich, they're not here. They're out living life, adulting.
Salute,
Game
man.
on a Saturday.
Getting
Like
it cracking
always
with the
do,
Kraken
though.
tonight.
Now might be a good time because last night we had a good interview. We spoke with Cindy of Aces Matter nonprofit organization, and I was so excited to put the new end graphics up. I clicked it, and I forgot to tell you guys that last night was the last episode of Talking Junk until the new year, and tonight is the last episode of the Break Room until the new year. We'll be on the 7th and the 8th of January after today, so we're going to take a little holiday mental health break and think up some more content for you guys and try to find more wonderful guests like Terry for you guys. So make sure you remember that, and you don't come on next week, Sunshine, and hit me up and say, why aren't you on tonight? What's happening? We're taking a little bit of a break to make sure we can have great content for you guys coming back.
Yep.
New Year.
And in the meantime, there's a whole year we got of stuff that you can catch up on. So I'm sure there's plenty of stuff for you to watch and listen to until we come back in a couple weeks.
Definitely.
We had a great list of episodes around the summertime coming into the fall. So if anybody wants to check out the archives, please enjoy both Talking Junk and Break Room. They're kind of synonymous. The interview and then the show.
This may also be a good time to say the archives are now video. That's right.
Nice.
They are now video.
Always a win.
And not just the ones you see on Facebook and YouTube, because those have always been video. Now Spotify is starting to support video podcasts. So we are one of the first ones to put our video podcasts on there. So make sure you go check that out too.
My TikTok, what? What about that?
You can't be asking me about.
We got another lead investigation to something else.
Yeah.
I mean, my TikTok can be a little lit, but I'm suppressed by the algorithm. So it is.
Yeah, everybody is. It's all right. We'll get there. But Terry,
Okay, now one thing I want to say before we end though tonight, and I know we got lots of time, is that people always ask, after all this stuff, would I play? And then I want you to ask me, how do you win the lottery? You can ask me all those sort of questions too tonight. But I definitely would play. I think of the billions and billions of drawings. I know of about 6 or 7 frauds internally that have happened with the lottery. And are balls better than this? Was drawn by a computer? Are they susceptible at all? Yes. In the 1980s, there was a movie called John Travolta did it, Lisa Kudrow, called Lucky Numbers, where people took the ping pong balls, a lottery in Pennsylvania, and put paint in the middle. I think it was Milan or somewhere like that. They had the uncles and aunts were drawing out of a ball, and they had nephews and nieces drawing the balls. But what they did is either heat the balls or cool the balls or all of that. There's so much security in lotteries in America today. Yeah, I play, and now that I'm not with the lottery, I can play, and I've won $4 with all the money I've spent so far. So yeah, it is the best way, and because the government runs it, you can go down and talk to your legislature if you think something's up. If you're playing if you're playing sports betting or something else out of the islands, you have no idea. So there's my little pro commercial for the lotteries. And basically, even in this, the checks and balances, we busted the guy when it was all said and done, even though it took a few years. But Eddie Tipton tonight is, I think, still enjoying himself in a Clarinda prison here in Iowa.
Yes, he is. Now,
and they don't serve hot dogs there either. So
I'm pretty sure they serve hot dogs in prison. I'm pretty sure.
They call it a cockmeat sandwich where he's
exactly
at.
They do. They call it cockmeat sandwich. They're definitely serving hot dogs, and they definitely plump when you cook them.
He's gonna be known as the new Glizzy Gladiator.
Do you see me playing dumb? My expression.
You know what kind of hot dog he was getting with the works on it.
Hey, this may be off topic, Rich. I just caught wind of your headset. I was like, wait, does he? Oh, that looks badass right there. Like you're part of the CIA.
Terry's a professional.
I do a lot of public speaking on this. I love speaking to banks, churches, everybody else, just to say, I don't want you to go through what we went through, because if you have friends and those that have other businesses like you have, and it's happening, they're saying, keep it quiet, quit being so public on this deal. And we kept saying, no, we're going to figure out how this was done and who did it, because you want the games fair and honest, or nobody's going to want to play. So I try to give some of the lessons learned so that people don't have to go through what we went through when it's all said and done, because it kind of messes with your head when you get all said and done.
Right.
Especially with all the numbers, figures, algorithms, formulas. Like I'm a business student from New York. I got my associate's degree in Monroe College. So one of those big things that got to me was learning formulas and algorithms to predict, what the sum or what the
Terry,
product.
ask him about the big thing that got to him in Vegas.
What'd you get? Did you win? Did you win?
Oh, he won.
I was down on the sarcasm of Jason. He was making a funny. I didn't have nothing except chips on the table. All right.
I don't care what you call it.
Alcohol.
It was a good time.
Let's just say he forgot to check for the dice. He forgot to check if they were loaded.
Listen, I walked out. I went into Vegas and walked out the same night.
Let's talk a little about how do you win the lottery then? Because I'll give you, if you really want to win, I can tell you a few secrets. Number one is,
before we indulge on the secrets, let's keep the viewers to the end on the lottery. Secrets.
Okay. We'll save those. Yeah, we'll save those. Go ahead. Questions other than that?
When did you, after you guys found out it was Eddie, did you guys have to go get him, or did he turn himself in?
Yeah, once they had enough evidence, Rob Sand arrested. He was able to go back home and sit for about 8 months before his trial, and then immediately following his trial, he appealed, and so he was back out of jail. And then once his brother came up and testified, and we figured out all of the different people and found the formula and found it on a computer. We said, hey, the gig's up. Robert Rhodes immediately flipped. His best friend said, okay, I agree. I want the lease sentence. We got probation. And you know what?
Right.
Here's the other thing I learned. If you're being asked, the worst thing you can be asked by a DCI agent is, do you want to be the witness or do you want to be the defendant? And Robert Rhodes was first to say, I'll be the witness, as did the two guys, the lawyers in New York and up in Canada. But Eddie and Tommy kind of got together and said, hey, Tommy's got kids. Give him the least sentence. I'll take the most. And he got up to 25 years. But Eddie will actually be paroled sometime in January, February. And for me, I'm fine with him getting out as long as he's fulfilled what the Department of Correction believes he needs to fulfill. But they all have to do payment back to the states that they got jackpots from. But Iowa, because we stopped it, we don't get a cent. When I say we, I'm not with the state anymore. But
now he's
suing, doing the work, and everybody gets the pay.
Yep. We did. We spent $500,000-600,000 in that. But let me tell you, lotteries, we call it the $80 billion gamble, because in America, think of all the money spent on sports, which is about 50 billion with a B. Movies about 10 billion. Music about 10 billion. You add it all together, more money spent on lotteries in a year than on all of those combined. Lotteries about 80-90 billion dollars. And so this was a gamble. If we didn't prosecute this, we were worried that we would hurt the business. And in fact, it's been the opposite. People are kind of saying, well, it must be safe to play, because they're sure as heck been on the TV saying they're going after him. And I did everything I could to stand by the DCI agent every time they had a press conference, because then people realized it wasn't the lottery that had done it. It was somebody else. And the lottery saying, by God, we're going to figure this out and make the games fair and honest. And it worked out in the end, but it was trying up to that time. Most time, if a murder, rape, assault, the defendant will appeal it all the way to the Supreme Court. So you always worried, did I really do this right, or were all the procedures followed? We got full confessions. Rob Sand and the DCI did such a good work with all the information we gave them, and they're going out and getting the information. They got full confessions. All three.
How long did it take Eddie to take the plea deal and plead guilty?
It only took within 30 to 60 days from the time that once we got the smoking gun and we found the code. Yeah, it was pretty fast. But he's now appealing because
and he sued the state of Iowa, right?
Yeah. And that was kind of you were bragging up my earpiece. Now it's falling off. I'm telling you what. So he's suing the state, saying that the state is making me pay back all of the jackpots in the other states, and that's not legal. I shouldn't have to pay them back if the state's prosecuting it. My understanding is, I'm sure he'll have his day in court, and that's fine. That's the way our judicial system works. But he signed an agreement saying he would pay the other.
They said,
yeah,
that's a lot of money.
He's already signed a deal that says he'll pay it. He hasn't paid a lot yet, so we'll see what the courts say.
$2 million. The article says he has
even
to pay
100. Even if he paid $100 million, that doesn't even put a dent into the $2 million that he needs to pay. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he got to pay. Yeah, even I didn't say $2 million. Oh, excuse me. If he pays $100,000, it's still not a dent to the $2 million he has to pay.
And his brother and his best friend, yeah.
I'm not saying he's paid that much yet, which probably he hasn't. But you would think that a man with
I actually think I saw him outside of the highway last week with a can. I think he was out there.
Oh, he's still in jail. He's still getting cock meat sandwiches.
Oh, maybe that was
yeah, but it's funny though. It even says right here in the Des Moines Register that even though they wanted to pay back $2 million, Tipton only ended up with only like about $350,000. So, like you said earlier, Jason, that's barely a dent to pay back what you owe and still have nothing to pay it back. So you're going to be doing that jail time instead of them holding their breath to pay back that money.
Well, they'll do a deal where he pays so much each month for the rest of his life. When he gets Social Security, he'll probably still be paying.
He won the anti-lottery.
It's like, yeah, what's he going to do? You got to make a paycheck in jail and be like, hey, I need this job, man. I gotta pay back. These guys I ripped off.
I didn't. I believe I won debt.
Yeah, I believe he could play the lottery again once he's out. He could play the lottery while he's in prison. He could cash one in. But I'm sure if he won, they'd be investigated again somewhere.
Right.
You better
Now that
stick
I'm
to
not there.
online betting. There's tons of online betting. Stick to online betting.
Well, I have a question, about the lottery, and this is more of like an internal thing, not just playing the game. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you guys get this jackpot by just everyone collectively playing the lottery, or is there like a set sum of money that's already in a pot somewhere that you guys use for this game, and then it also includes everybody's, input when they pay for a ticket, whether it be $1, $20, $50?
Yep.
How does that pot get
Let's
accumulated?
talk Powerball first. Powerball, when you pay $2, $1 goes directly to the pot. And over the years, they've kept half of it plus 1%, to have a little reserve so that when the jackpot gets hit, they can start the jackpot not at 0, but at 20 or $40 million, higher amount of some sort. So it basically is the more people play, the faster the jackpot grows, because $1 of the $2 goes directly to the pot, and the other dollar stays back for profits for the lottery and pays the retailer and the distribution and all that sort of thing. So 50% payout is what is paid out with Powerball. And then once it's won, it goes back to, with the reserve, a $20 or $40 million jackpot. So when it gets up to the 500 million, everybody runs the store and buys a whole bunch. Then you just see the jackpot really take off. But the first few weeks, it doesn't grow that big. Most people wait around as if $20 or $40 million isn't enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
It's different.
I'm gonna be blessed.
It's different on scratch tickets. Scratch tickets, the lower price tickets pay out less than the bigger tickets, $30, $40, $50 tickets. So if you want to win, it's about 60. And here's how it works. You print, as a lottery, you print X number. Let's just say 1 million scratch tickets. And if you have a 70% payout, that means that when all of those tickets are sold, it's already predetermined that $700,000 will be paid back, and $300,000 is kept for profit and overhead and paying the retailer and paying all the others. So you'll win $2, $5, $10, but you'll have 2 or 3 jackpots of $50,000 or $100,000. That's all predetermined. So if you would buy the entire lot, you just say, I'm buying all of the lottery scratch tickets, the brand new game that came out. You would win 75% of the money that you put in. You wouldn't pay yourself back. Now, Lotto is a little different because it's not determined. So the odds are higher and it grows, but you never know whether you're going to have a winner or not when you play the Lotto. So some people ask, at what point could I buy all the tickets and be guaranteed that I'd get the 1.5 at the big jackpot, $1.5 billion? So let me do the math with you. Let's see how well you did in that accounting school, Miggs. So let's say that it's $1.5 billion is the jackpot. So again, to win it, you'd have to buy all the tickets, which is around 300 million tickets. You'd have to spend $2 a ticket. That's $600 million. The problem is you can't buy that many tickets in the 3 days before the next draw comes up, the 2 or 3 days before the next draw comes up. So there's no, and even if it was electronic and you put all the money in, you always have to worry that somebody over here has also bought that same ticket, and now you only get half the money anyway. So it's virtually impossible to try to win the big jackpot by buying all the tickets. Just buy a few tickets, $5, $10, and hope for luck. That's your best bet.
Okay. So you know what? Here's a follow-up to that one. So if that's the case versus lottery and scratch-offs, would you say it would be more beneficial? Like let's say we're talking money, right? Like me as an individual, I got the money to buy X amount of tickets I want. Would you say to have a better chance of hitting that jackpot of the lottery if I bought, let's say, 100 to 200 tickets versus instead of buying 1 or 2 scratch-offs, I buy that whole bag that the guy at the store has, on reserve, not the one that's on the counter ready to roll out. You break out like 2. Would you say I have better odds?
Same odds. It's the exact same odds. And the reason is because that's already predetermined. You wouldn't want to buy all of the tickets in a scratch-off game because you're going to lose 30% of your money.
sense.
You only win if you're lucky enough to buy that one ticket somewhere hidden in all the tickets everywhere that hits $20,000 or $30,000 when you're only spending $2. So
Okay.
you know, you'd
Now,
have to
what
buy
about-
one. Now,
So
if you
so
wanna
if
have-
a coin, it's all 50-50.
I need that.
yeah,
What about letting the
50%
computer
you going
generate
in,
it?
50% you can win.
letting the
Yeah.
computers versus using your own numbers. Was that the question?
Right.
Okay,
Is that
here's a
better
good one.
odd?
That's on the lottos. Here's the way I would put it. 80% of the people let the computers pick the winners, and 80% of the people who win let the computer win. There's no difference if you use your own numbers or the other numbers. The only real odds difference that I can tell you that I think would be is if you play your own numbers and you play the ones that everybody else plays, you got to split it. And the most common combinations are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A lot of people play that. 7, 14, 21, 28. That's combinations of 7. A lot of people play that. And people play their birthdays and anniversaries. So if you want to try to find numbers that no one else plays, you want to play some numbers above 36, right? Or 30 because there are 30 days in a month, or, you know, higher than 12. But really, it mathematically, you just got to get lucky. And that's why it's such a good game, because it is more luck. It's really tough, except for the Eddie Tipton case, which he ultimately got busted, that people, and that is so few and far between that you just want to play a little bit of your money. But if you're emptying the bank account when the jackpot's big, you're hosed. You're going to lose, guaranteed. I'll bet against you every time.
Some would say he's still hosed and getting busted.
Yeah, but that actually put it into a much better perspective, because I had like at least 3 other questions to ask, but because you mentioned it that way, you just answered them.
Okay,
Because it relies on luck. So
Yeah.
what you're trying to say is there's no way. Well, besides working on the back end, there's no way to crack this code. It's a straight 50-50 luck. You put in your half playing the game, and the other half is luck, whether you pick those numbers or you let the system take over.
Here's how I play. Here's how I would play if I were playing scratch tickets. If you want to win, so you're with your buddies or your wife or your friends and say, yeah, I can win this lottery. I take whatever money I want to spend. If it's 20, say it's $100, and I divide it by 10. So I would buy 10 tickets off the same roll, all in sequential order, because most lotteries design their tickets so there's a winner on average every 3 to 6 tickets. Now that winner is going to be small. When you're done spending the $100, you probably still will only have $70 in your pocket, unless you get lucky and you do hit one of the bigger ones, and that happens a lot. But most of the time, you're going to win about 70% of what you put in, 50 to 70% of the money you put in. And if you buy them all in the same string, the way that they're usually programmed is every 4 to 7 tickets, there's a winner. It's usually the smallest amount, either a free ticket or a $2 or whatever the dollar amount of the ticket you bought. But you'll win, and you can say, hey, I'm a winner.
Right. The best way to play is just to play with your winnings. If you don't have any winnings, don't play. If you have enough discretionary income to where it's
I was working in a gas station.
Jason and I told this story the other day. What I learned in life, and I learned from other folks that I found was successful, is when I was young, I took a lot more risks. I took a lot more of my own money, and I rolled the dice and played the game and did it. But once you see people who've been successful, or I've started companies and it's done well, I take 10% of that, and that's what I use aside, and I just have some real fun with that, trying a new company, trying a new concept, gamble with it, whatever. But if I lose that, I only play with what I can lose, and that's the bottom line, is to only play with what you can lose. If you're reaching in your pocket, once you've lost it, you don't, people go to a blackjack table, and once they lose it, they grab it again, or a craps table. Once you lose it, you got to walk away, and that's really tough for almost everybody to do.
I
was just going to say that. I worked in a gas station, and they will come in, and they'll get it, and they'll win like $150 off of a $20 ticket, and they're like, let me get more. Give me more. Give me that whole row.
Flip it right back into the game.
And win absolutely nothing, and then come back and buy more. It's like, why?
It's addictive.
You're absolutely right, Jasmine. One other thing I would mention, most lotteries are now doing second chance drawings, and those are actually better odds sometimes than the actual ticket to sell. If you don't win, be sure to enter their loyalty club, Second Chance, because not many people play that, and they give away some pretty nice prizes in there too.
I didn't know about Second Chance. What I want to do is I want to play those win for life things because I want to win. Like if I win $1,000 a week for life, I'm gonna retire right now.
Or is it $1,000 a month? What was it again?
No, it's
every state has a different amount that you can get 100,000 a month. You can get 1,000 a month. It all depends on, and this is how Powerball and Mega Millions began. It depends on how many people are in a state to play because lotteries are run only by state. So a little state like Iowa couldn't have $1 million winnings every day like New York could. So they got together with Missouri and Arizona and all these different ones, and we put together 35 states. And that's how we started Powerball. So we could pool the money. And that's why half the money just goes in to this company called the Multi-State Lottery. Hear that? That's where Eddie worked. Goes to that organization, and then they distribute it back out once all the winners are drawn.
Okay, you're answering questions before I can come up with them. You're amazing. I was just going to ask
ESP, man. I got my ESP hat on.
And I was just going to ask
that. Does this for a living,
Midwest,
man.
like up north, some place in the Mid East. I was going to ask when it comes to smaller states, what do they do? And you just answered that. That's
what you drinking there, Terry?
LaCroix.
I hate to say that, yeah, because I will have a can I say Cold Crown and
yes, you can. You can say whatever you want.
Watermelon juice as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
You see, I'm old. My mouth slurs without anything in my mouth, So I
gotta object to that, sir. You're only as old as you allow yourself to be.
I appreciate that, Meg.
Meg's is 12, and we don't mind.
These guys
get my age, sir.
These guys making fun of me every week when I sip on the secret sauce and my eyes slur.
All right, sunshine. Can let me $50 though. Like,
we're gonna talk after the show, sunshine. Let's see if
it's Christmas.
Hey, Terry, so I got another question. All right.
Yep.
And I hope it's not a dumb question, but of course, the dumbest question is the one not answered or asked. How about this? What would be better odds? The blackjack table in a casino? I don't care if it's Las Vegas. Would you have better odds?
You don't care if it's Las Vegas.
Yes, I do care, but I care a lot. Anyway, would you think there's better odds at at a casino?
It depends. All of these games are designed with different triggers. The Powerball game is designed for people who want to dream and just play occasionally because they want the big jackpot. They know they don't win, but they're thinking for 3 days, my God, what would happen if I'd win? The scratch tickets are for people who like slot machines. I lost, oh my God, Jasmine, right? I got to buy another, and I need to buy another one. They're much faster play in how they do that. So people who play craps, which is really fast, man, you can lose a lot of money quick and you can get a lot of money.
The odds
are pretty good, but you got to kind of watch when you play.
You know about dice, don't you?
Yeah, I like craps. I like blackjack. Here's how I play blackjack. I play I play for I can play for an hour and a half on $100 on a $5 table, and if I go to a $10 table, I take $200. And we go to a $15, take $300. And that's
like a killer poker face.
Yeah, that's the rhythm that if you play just the odds, you get the little card and you only play split when you're supposed to split and do all that. That's how you can play forever and still be 10 or 20% up or down. I can always walk away with some money. That's my theory. Whether it's right, wrong, everybody has their own. So I think that you want to find something you like playing. I like blackjack because I can play forever with that formula. Craps, I get there and then I get excited and I want to start messing around and playing the crazy bets, and then I immediately lose. Or people who double their money right away, you can see them. You'll know they're going to lose right away when they sit down and they play something, they don't get it, so they throw another. If they're playing fives, they throw 10, or if they're playing 25s, they throw 50.
Double betting.
Rather than just play it consistently with the odds, knowing you're going to lose 50%, X percent and win X percent. So those are my theories. I don't have them trademarked, nor do I think they're probably right, but that's how I play.
Play the game you enjoy.
No, your theory is absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, I was at Fremont, right? And I was playing the blackjack table. I just put up $100. I came down all the way to 35, and I was like, shit, what do I do? Because you play 10, but you have to put an extra 5 on
so many jokes, so little time.
So right after that, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let me just keep doubling it so I can do a split. It was 2 plays that I was able to do a split. I got both a king and the ace and a jack and the ace. You get 2 separate jackpots from there. Those 2 separate jackpot extra plays gave me a 15 and a 5 after it. So it helped me double up on a 50, and then I doubled up a second time. Next thing I know, I'm up 95 instead of being down. You know, my whole like $65. So I made back 100, and I got back
instead of down 69. Go ahead, say it.
65, not 69.
Down 69. You know,
you've been drinking too much Kettle One. All right, I'm gonna need you to I might have to call the lead investigator on you real quick. No, but yeah, it was really cool. Like that same theory you're talking about, I did that, but also like the crew I was with, 4 out of 5 of us were playing on that whole table, so it made it easier for not just for me to win, but for the other guys, and we can, really,
well, that's what makes it fun. Gambling, especially at a casino, we always would say that casinos are for social. That's where you're around people. You see a lot of old people in there because you're around people, you hear it, and you become friends. Where lotteries are aspirational, which means I think I could win the big one. And, I had that same feeling. I told this to Jason the other day that when I came out of college, I was doing some on-camera work and I didn't have any beard at 5 o'clock. So I wrote to Schick and told him how well I love their razor blade, and I figured I'd get a TV commercial. And just like you feel when you're playing Powerball, thinking, "What if I win?" I kept thinking, "I'm going to get on national TV, so I'm going to go do a commercial for Schick." They wrote me back the letter and said, "Dear Mr. Rich, you wrote the wrong company. Gillette makes that razor." So I feel.
Oh my god.
And then see what you do there is you scan that onto a new letter where you say, "See what I did because I love you so much."
Yeah, because I love it. Inspired me ultimately to make it to the Carson Show and be on every major network TV when I did it, because I just that stuck in me that's what I wanted to do someday. So I got to do it all, and then I got to be on this tonight. This is great.
Yes.
And and the sky's the limit.
And I know multiple success in other fields.
Right. And you've been here twice. I don't know if Carson shows you that much love,
right?
Yes, he did. They played it on the Best of Carson and paid me $400 again for union talent fees.
All right. Shout out to Carson.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out to Carson. And the next time you come back New Year, we're gonna be looking like you, sporting these, little indiscreet, CIA looking kind of headphones.
Yeah. I've got a big microphone sits in front of me right here. Usually,
no, I won't. Okay, I love my blue. All right.
I was gonna say
those are good mics.
Those are good mics. I didn't know.
But we don't want to take up too much of your time. We know it's late, and we know you're a very busy man. So why don't you give us your lottery secrets, and we'll let you get on with your night. We know you're a busy fella.
I think I gave the lottery secrets. That was the ones about when to play scratch and when to play the others. But in general, play with the money. Play with your head, not above your head. We always said that. But I'm not in the lottery business anymore. I'm playing against you now. So, and I'm not winning. So you better be winning. You guys better be winning.
After Talon gives his question, why don't you give us a little bit of marketing advice?
Okay.
So I don't know if there's really, like, if you know the answer to this or not, but when you win the jackpot, say you did get that lucky draw, is it better to go lump sum or payment? Like, what's the actual real difference in that? Because it always seems like it's better to just wait it out, but everybody wants their money now, and I feel like most people probably do that.
It's my money, and I need it now.
Everybody that wins I've seen people who could handle winning, and I've seen people who couldn't. And there's one thing in common: they could handle the money before they won the lottery, or they couldn't handle it, and usually the same. So the advice is immediately get with a lawyer and an accountant and get affairs and have them coach you. The second is, if you do that, you probably want to take it in a lump sum. The lotteries advertise annuities and the higher jackpot because it's a better marketing. Sounds higher, it's much more. So that $16.5 million jackpot Eddie Tipton won was $10 million in cash. And so The annuity sounds good, but in today's world, the interest rate is so low, you can make better money if you take the money and you're smart enough and disciplined enough to put it into something that'll make you more money.
Like a trust.
Yeah, like a trust or something that will accumulate. Most people can't handle that urge, though. My God, I've got all that money, I'm going to spend some. The other thing that is a good advice, once you get it, if it's 200,000 rather than 15 billion or whatever the amount might be, is to we asked the lottery winners what would be your advice, and they said, I wish I'd have waited 30 days before I made the big purchase. I wish I'd have bought a red Lamborghini rather than a green one. And so
you always buy black.
Too impulsive. They thought they were too impulsive. So I think that's a couple of suggestions. But in answer to your question, almost everyone takes lump sum nowadays. And if you're not disciplined at all and you don't hire an accountant or a lawyer, take the annuity. If you're younger, especially. If you're older, you're going to die. You just will enjoy it.
Right. And for some of our viewers who may not know what that is, can you explain to us what it means to take the annuity?
Sure.
Like Mix, because he's 12, remember?
Yeah.
I'm 12 and a half, Bundy.
When you win the lottery, you have a chance for you'll hear the jackpot is $10 million. Well, that isn't what you get in one lump sum. So what the lotteries do is they invest in a very conservative called an annuity, which they put it in like in a bank, and then you get the interest off that plus some of that money each year, usually 20 to 25 years. So you would get that much money each year. You get a guaranteed check. So if you'd like to just have it on an ongoing basis, that's a good way to do it. And that's what they mean by annuity versus lump sum, which is they're just going to give you a check. And I tell everybody, we never contacted our winners afterwards, because I said, I don't want the government in my business. You want it fair and square. Here's your money. Enjoy. And, if you need something or you need help with press because somebody's bugging you, that sort of thing, just give us a call.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well, all right. Let's talk marketing for you.
Yes. Let's talk marketing.
Okay. So couple of thoughts that I would have. Somebody asked me, what would you do if you were 21 again? Because you can tell I'm probably not 20 at this point.
I can't answer the question. My wife is here.
I said two things. Number one is I raise my hand every time I can, because when the bosses would say, we need someone to clean the bathroom, or who wants to take this project on, if you raise your hand, you're noticed. And so volunteer, whether it's nonprofit organizations to help outside, anything to help out, that's one. The second is, and I've not mastered it, and that is how to relax, how to have fun, how to, once you start feeling success in a business, it's real easy, because there's a jazz about, it's like a drug, that's success and making some money. I want to do it again, and not being able to kick back and learning how to relax. Damon John, who's one of the guys that is on Shark Tank, I did a conference with him a few weeks or months ago, and he said something that I thought was pretty cool. Everybody's always bugging him. Hey, I got the next $1 million idea, and they're always trying to hit him, and everybody wants to do this nonprofit, do this special project. He said that every night he goes to bed, he has 6 things on a piece of paper, and in the morning he revises them next morning. And those 6 things are things he's going to do for himself the next day. And I thought, you know what? That's pretty cool. I like that. And it gives him the opportunity then to have life himself, because happiness, I told you at 40, I got lucky and they cashed us out, and everything I wanted to travel and fame and fortune, all that seemed to have hit at least what my goals were. But happiness happens on the way to success, not when you reach your goal. And so you got to be happy today. You're not going to be happy when you do make your goal, is another one I would say in general. So those are 3 or 4 key thoughts that we can all say, geez, what was that old guy saying? Was he drinking?
With that LaCroix kind of spike?
Now, Terry, I guarantee you, if you keep joining us, you'll be eased into relaxation every time.
I like it. Man. I think I'm going to do this. We get to do this again once or twice, and next year, and then I want to fly out and we'll all meet somewhere, and then we'll have one in person. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that one out for ourselves, because we've actually
BreakRoom
never had a show
roundtable session.
together.
Let's go.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, thanks for the invitation. I love starting new companies, and I started 4 or 5 companies in my life, and then all these different corporations. I've had 4 complete careers, but I'd love to be back in your shoes right now, because the encouragement. That's the big thing. You can do it. You know, it's like a kid who's a baby pulling themselves up for the first time. They take a step, they fall over. Most people, when they come up with an idea and they fail the first time, just quit. And you got to keep pulling yourself up and keep going, and you'll find success. And I know you guys have the drive. I'm proud of you. Good luck.
Most definitely. I don't remember who said it before, but some wise man said, if you fall 99 times, as long as you get up 100, you'll always be a winner.
Absolutely.
I said that.
So thank you very much, Terry. We appreciate it. And make sure you send me that info so we can send you out a shirt.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You got it. Good talking to y'all.
Great talking to you too.
It's been a pleasure.
Have a great night, sir.
Have a wonderful night.
Yep, you too.
Great guest. And that what else do you do for the last episode but get a famous investigator on the most famous lottery fraud case in U.S. history for you guys? Because we know you love true crime, because we do too.
And you know, I was looking into this, and some of the people, what the fuck, cheap ass chair.
What the fuck?
Whoever keeps sending naked HD XYZ, hey, I'm waiting for you on 18 plus stream. We block you every week. All right. Don't solicit your sex stuff here. Okay.
Yeah, it's not even real.
Send that to our Instagram.
Everything.
Hey, you look. If there's one thing I can say, to end the year off, you got to get some Christmas leaf up in your spirit. Hey, that was an awesome episode. Wow, I think we had an amazing time.
Enjoyed it.
What's happening? It's a TV show.
Hey, we enjoyed having him too. He just wrote, enjoyed it, thanks. And we enjoyed having him on way more than I think you guys did. So what do you mean what's happening? What do you mean what's happening?
What's happening?
The comments, not you. So stop putting in double time. Get out of here.
What's happening, Sunshine? This is our year-end episode.
Gang.
We got Terry Rich up on here.
End of the show forever,
baby.
Yes, this is the last time you're gonna see us in 2021.
That's right.
Yes.
Unless you follow our
Merry Krima. Happy New Year.
New Year. It's New Year.
Happy
Merry
New Year, ladies and
Krima.
gentlemen. Can't wait to see you guys again for the new year. It's going to be great. One year after the other, we're going to keep making more content. We're going to keep making you smile and keep giving you great topics to think about what we're going to say next.
Yep, and we're always going to be talking about Vegas, and we're always going to be talking about why Jay's always shitting in the toilet over there. And
we're still going to be talking about zombie apocalypse.
I was going to say we're always going to be bringing up zombie apocalypse and shit.
Wonder where's Dre at? Hey,
any of those. Go back in the archive because there's plenty of things to make you laugh. You can probably skip the last couple of weeks. I wasn't in this shit, but
or hey, for the sake of going back in our archives,
hey, Jason too. We didn't want to show you guys now, but we actually cloned Jason. We have two of them.
There's one that smiles a lot, and there's one that smiles and looks down, like this one to our side.
Okay, I forgot.
Hi, little Jason.
So I think it's something. Okay.
Hey, and if I can give a suggestion, all of our viewers who would like to know what's going on, why don't you catch the break room with Talking Junk? Seeing some of these interviews are very enlightening, especially when you come over next to Saturday nights, where we belong, in the break room, baby.
Where we will stay.
Like always, show your love, share your support.
Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, okay? But what we want you to do seriously.
It's like 4 evers off for me. I'm not gonna
forever.
This is what we want you to do, okay? Because we hardly ever ask you guys for anything, and we provide you every week with great content. We think,
right? This is a job.
We want you
guys aren't paying.
We don't think. We know. We know we provide you with great content.
Yes, we know.
We know. We don't
every
think.
Time. Right. Before we even do the show, we know how it's stopped.
So we need all of you guys to leave us a review everywhere you listen to us. Leave it on YouTube, leave it on Facebook, 2, 3, 4. Leave it on Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen. 5-star rating. Because yes, you guys love us, you know about us, but there's other people that need to love and know us too.
That's right.
So make sure they know who we are.
And just listen to ours.
Hey, love you guys. If you want to enjoy more,
actually, if you've got a podcast, you got anything like that, hit us up, hit up the DMs or whatever. Talk
Yeah,
to us.
we collaborate.
Maybe get you on the show. You never know.
Definitely.
Hey.
We want to
Join
say
us live.
happy holidays.
If you fondle Coach balls off camera,
So stupid.
Now, we don't know for sure what the first episode of the new year is going to be, but we can tell you we're still going to bring you this heat. This heat.
That's right.
Fire.
Fire is
Fuego.
too hot to handle.
Right, dialing fire.
Yo, got fire.
Oh, look at that, a baby with a beard, bitch.
This is something you can see only here. Have a great year.
Bye bye.